Dirty little secret number one. Indiana Jones is not a model archaeologist. And dirty little secret number two. Much of what most people know about archaeology is imperfect, to put it mildly. So what do people think? What do you think archaeology is and what an archaeologist does? Try checking out these images. I asked a very smart but very random bunch of people around the Brown campus, to draw an archaeologist. And this is what we've got. I think you can probably see some patterns, emphasis on work in the field, shovels, exotic places, pyramids, certain whiffs of Indiana Jones. Check out the hats, the guns, the whips. I'm not even going to comment on the dinosaurs. That actually, folks, is paleontology. And note, finally, the gender bias. There are a few androgynous types, but none are clearly female. So to kick off the course, I'm going to put out 6 ideas, 6 presumptions constantly encountered about my line of work. I'm going to put them out there, and if by the end of the class you still think they are right, I will have failed, and I will never MOOC again. Presumption number 1, all real archaeologists like to dig. Presumption number 2, all real archaeologists want to find goodies. Presumption number 3, all real archaeologists, to be successful, have to be lucky. Presumption number 4, all real archaeologists only study the past. Presumption number 5, all real archaeologists, when they aren't digging, live in ivory towers, and what they do makes little difference to anyone for good or ill. And presumption number 6, all real archaeologists are white and male and macho. All right, let's take these apart. Statement number 1. All real archaeologists like to dig. Well, think of these pictures. Field archaeologists, after all, are also commonly known as dirt archaeologists. The first thing most people say when they find out what I do, it's almost automatic after they say, oh, how wonderful, I wanted to be an archaeologist, until I grew up and got a life, or until I grew up and got smart. The second question after that is, and where do you dig? Do you really use toothbrushes? What's the deepest hole you've ever dug? It's, astonishing, the range of questions people ask. So it's pretty clear that excavation, in the popular view, is the right and proper job of the archaeologists. Right? We'll see. Presumption number 2. Archaeologists basically are out to find goodies. Gold, jewels, statues, rare antiquities, the lost ark, you name it. And this, of course, is where digging comes in handy. Now, to be fair, this once would actually have been, and not that long ago, true. The early history of archaeology, the 17th to the 19th century, is not a particularly glorious one. It was, to a great extent, a history of plundering, a history of state-sponsored or institutionally sponsored looting, or rather, state-sponsored or institutionally sponsored legal acquisition. It depends on who you talk to. A very famous case, of course, the Elgin or the Parthenon marbles, currently in the British Museum in London. Now, that image of the archaeologist as treasure hunter is still very potent today. Another question you get after where do you dig is, have you found anything good? And my answer to that, at least when I'm feeling brave, is, well, what do you mean by good? Presumption number 3, archaeologists have to be lucky. Implicitly, we have in the back of our mind the image of someone like Howard Carter, who you see here. Howard Carter, who spent much of his life and lots of someone else's money hunting for King Tut's tomb in the Valley of the Kings in Egypt. And he was just about to give up when he found a new tomb entrance. And he approached it and he peered in, and that's what you see, him kneeling before the door. He looks in and he's silent. And those standing behind him say, Howard, do you see anything? And Howard Carter comes out with one of the great all-time lines in archaeology. Yes, wonderful things. Howard Carter, having struck it lucky, became a world hero in the Roaring '20s with the first of just the first of many waves of Tut-o-mania and a firm belief in the mummy's curse. So to be a good archaeologist, you need to be lucky, not smart, not trained, not responsible, just lucky. Presumption number 4, archaeologists only study the past. The very name comes from the Greek, archaeology, the study of old things. The mystery novelist Agatha Christie was actually married to a Near Eastern archaeologist, Max Mallowan, and she wrote several mysteries set in archaeological settings. She got off another of the great all-time lines in archaeology: "An archaeologist is the best husband a woman can have. The older she gets, the more interested he is in her." Now, if it is true we only study the past, then there was no good reason for me to go through someone else's garbage as part of this course, and no good reason to offer you the chance to do the same. Presumption number 5. All real archaeologists, when they aren't digging, live in ivory towers, and what they do makes little difference to anyone for good or ill. Just 2 images to challenge that notion. One from a community in Peru where archaeological heritage is providing an economic catalyst for growth and youth education. And the other, you see there are 2 people who were big, huge supporters of archaeology and who used archaeological data to justify their acts and to achieve their ends. Think about it. And presumption number 6. All archaeologists are all white, all male, and all macho. Now, this is another shibboleth that was long true. It still lingers, as we saw in those initial images. The idea that archaeology is a tough job, digging in the hot sun, is something only real men can do. I can offer you 2 role models against that argument. Take your pick. One, of course, is the equal opportunity Indiana Jones, Lara Croft, in Tomb Raider. And the other one is me. So the bottom line, next time you meet an archaeologist, don't ask them where they dig. Don't ask them, did they find anything good, or are they feeling lucky? By the end of this class, you'll have many better, funner, and more thought-provoking questions.